just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing.
Michelle's been working on a new podcast, and so far, it's been a flop. The first 2 episodes have been up all day and only gotten a few thousand views on YouTube. Half of them are probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how
Megyn Kelly and Jesse Waters didn't just criticize Michelle Obama. They tore through her image like a wrecking ball. It wasn't polite debate. It wasn't soft questions. It was 2 media pros breaking down one of the most carefully crafted public images of our time. Michelle Obama, once seen as untouchable, got pulled into a storm of tough questions, sarcasm, and exposed contradictions. Megyn Kelly brought her signature precision like a cold spotlight, focused on the truth. Jesse Waters brought the fire, calling out everything from her public comments to her private silence. Together, they shattered the illusion of a perfect image Michelle has held for over a decade. It started with Michelle's new podcast. She launched it expecting praise, views, and media celebration. But the numbers told a different story. Only a few thousand views on episodes promoted across every major liberal outlet. Megyn Kelly pointed out how strange that was. Michelle promoted everywhere, barely pulling in views. Jesse Waters laughed, saying half the audience probably worked at news studios. They both agreed it wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the message. People weren't buying it anymore. Michelle was trying to seem relatable, but something was off. The glow was fading. Michelle talked on her show about being tired, in therapy, and unhappy in her marriage. She said her kids messed her up and talked about how difficult motherhood was, but instead of sympathy, it raised eyebrows. Megyn Kelly asked the obvious question, why was Michelle always so negative? This wasn't a one-time comment, it was a pattern. Michelle, given every opportunity, every platform, and every advantage, constantly sounded bitter. According to Megyn, it wasn't inspiring, it was depressing. Jesse added that it was hard to feel sorry for someone giving interviews from a mansion while complaining about being a mom. Then they addressed what Michelle said about Barack. She openly admitted that he doesn't like people, doesn't talk to them, and doesn't care to connect. This shocked many people. Michelle didn't say it jokingly. She said it seriously, as if it was something she had lived with for years. Megyn and Jesse both questioned why someone would speak that way about their husband publicly. Was it a strategy? Was she separating herself from Barack for a reason? Jesse said it felt like a setup for a bigger move, possibly political. Megyn said it felt like someone preparing to take the spotlight for themselves. They dove deeper. Megyn pointed out that Michelle had become more brand than person. Every outfit was planned. Every word tested, every appearance staged. It wasn't real. It was marketing. She said Michelle's image was too perfect to be true. The former First Lady wasn't just sharing stories, she was running a campaign without announcing it. Megyn questioned why someone who wants to be seen as just like us is always surrounded by stylists, photographers, and PR agents. Jesse agreed. He mocked the idea that Michelle was struggling, calling her out for building an empire of book deals, Netflix, contracts, and tours that brought in millions. The pair didn't stop there. They went after Michelle's selective silence. Every time criticism comes her way, she disappears. No response, no comment, no debate, according to Jesse. That's not strength, it's avoidance. He said if Michelle really believes what she says, she should defend it. Megyn added that true leaders answered tough questions, not just the easy ones. They both agreed Michelle loves to shape the national conversation, but hates to be questioned about her own views. This double standard, they said, was a red flag. Megyn also touched on the media bubble surrounding Michelle. She said every interview Michelle gives feels like a scripted session. No tough questions, no follow-ups, just soft praise and agreement. It wasn't journalism, was fan service. She said Michelle is protected by the press in a way no one else is. Jessie agreed, saying Michelle only appears where she knows she won't be challenged. That kind of control, they argued, is dangerous. It keeps people from seeing the full picture. Then they turned to Michelle's influence. They said she has a major role in shaping public opinion, but never takes responsibility for what happens next. When things go wrong, she hides behind the "I'm just a mom" line. When things go right, she steps up for credit. Megyn called it the perfect shield, power without accountability. Jessie said it was like running the kitchen but blaming the chef when dinner goes bad. Was clear to both of them. Michelle plays politics without ever admitting she's in the game. They also pointed out the timing. Michelle's public reappearance came right as elections heated up. New podcast, new book, new turret. Wasn't a coincidence. Jessie suggested this was all part of a bigger plan. Not necessarily a campaign, but a move to stay visible, stay relevant, and maybe test the waters. Megyn said, if that's true, then Michelle needs to stop playing both sides. Either step into the arena or stay out of it, but don't expect praise for opinions while avoiding questions. Michelle's talk about marriage also raised alarms. She spoke about struggles, distance, and bitterness with a tone that sounded more like regret than reflection. Megyn questioned if Michelle was using her platform to subtly distance herself from Barack. Jessie went further, saying maybe this was Michelle's way of stepping out of Barack's shadow and building her own path. They noted that in every recent appearance, Michelle focused less on Barack and more on herself. Then they brought up Michelle's contradictions. She tells women to lean in, chase goals, and build careers, but often talks about her own life as if it's a burden. She promotes positivity while constantly speaking about pain. Megyn said it's confusing. People look to Michelle for hope but often leave feeling worse. Jessie added that if your message is life is hard and no one understands you, maybe don't deliver it from a luxury jet. They questioned how someone who preaches humility could live such a distant, elite lifestyle while telling people she's just like them. The money side was impossible to ignore. Michelle turned her time as First Lady into a business empire. From books to speaking fees to media deals, she's built a brand worth millions. Megyn asked what happens when public service becomes private profit. Jessie joked that Michelle might be the only person who could turn a White House memoir into a fashion line. They weren't mocking success, they were pointing out the gap between what Michelle says and what she does. And that was their biggest point. The gap. The distance between Michelle's image and her actions. She says she's struggling but lives like a queen. She says she's a private citizen but shapes national conversations. She says she's not political but never misses a moment to take a swipe at her opponents. Megyn and Jessie weren't saying Michelle has no right to speak. They were saying it's time she started answering back when others speak too. They ended by talking about what's next. If Michelle wants to stay in the spotlight, then she needs to accept what comes with it. Criticism, questions, and accountability. Megyn said Michelle can't keep playing the victim when people question her. Jessie said Michelle has been protected for too long. And now that people are starting to challenge her, the cracks are showing. This wasn't just a media moment. It was a shift. A reminder that even the most polished public images can't hide forever. Michelle Obama, once untouchable, now faces real scrutiny. And the two voices leading that charge weren't bitter or angry, they were just honest. Sometimes honesty is the sharpest tool of all. Jessie didn't hold back in the second half of the segment. He pushed even harder on the idea that Michelle's public brand was more of a scripted production than real personality. He laughed at the idea that Michelle could still claim to be relatable while vacationing on Martha's Vineyard and living in homes worth tens of millions. He pointed out how Michelle always manages to reappear with a big message right when the Democratic Party needs a boost. And yet, when the media asks about her political plans, she always acts surprised or dismissive. Jesse called it the soft launch presidency, where everything is rehearsed but nothing is confirmed. Megyn added that this tactic is clever, but it's also manipulative. You can't act like a national leader and then dodge the hard parts of leadership. Then they played clips from Michelle's podcast. Her tone was serious, almost heavy. She spoke about emotional burnout, the struggles of raising children, the pain of being misunderstood. Jesse raised an eyebrow and said, "Is this a therapy session or a campaign trail?" He noted how her comments sounded more like someone building sympathy than sharing lessons. Megyn agreed, saying it wasn't that Michelle shouldn't speak about her feelings, but when your whole platform is about empowerment, constantly playing the victim starts to feel dishonest. According to Megyn, if Michelle really wanted to inspire, she'd speak from strength, not from sorrow. The discussion moved to Barack Obama's role in all of this. Megyn pointed out how Michelle often paints him as distant, cold, and disconnected. Jesse joked that Michelle described Barack like a guy she met on a dating app that went wrong. They both laughed but acknowledged the seriousness beneath it. If Michelle's personal image is distancing from Barack's, is that a signal? The Obamas trying to rebrand separately to maximize their influence. Megyn said it sure looked that way, especially since Barack has stayed relatively quiet while Michelle ramps up her public appearances.